What would you do if you were given billions? Well, in The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, our main protagonist finds out. Let's talk about it. The Inheritance Games is a series with 4 books out, and it's actually pretty interesting. The first 3 follow Avery Grambs, our main protagonist, while the 4th book actually follows some different protagonists. It was definitely a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but I have to say, it really did speak to me. I enjoyed the YA mystery thriller feel of it, whereas usually I cover fantasy and a little sci-fi here and there. But like I say, I don't turn my nose up at any other genres, and Jennifer Lynn Barnes definitely put a lot of effort into this series. But enough of that, let's get to a bit of a spoiler-free summary. Our protagonist, Avery Grambs, is a normal, yet very intelligent young gal from Connecticut. She is currently living with her sister because her mother had sadly passed away before the series had even begun, and they are running into money problems. She kind of has her life figured out and is willing to, slog through the grind. She's not really been given anything in her entire life, and she's really had to fight for what she believes in and fight for the work she puts in. And lo and behold, she meets a very magnanimous young man named Tobias Hawthorn, who informs her that his grandfather has recently passed away and she is requested to be at the will. Now, I say spoiler-free, we learn all this in the first couple chapters, so I guess it's not technically spoiler-free, but I digress from there. She then goes and she learns that she's left a fairly sizable portion of the fortune and now has to basically survive in this mansion, sprawling mansion, I should say, known as the Hawthorn House for a year. Dealing with family politics, a little romance between some of the brothers, and is learning to cope with coming into a decent chunk of money while also unraveling a mystery that Tobias Hawthorn, the Texas billionaire, has left for her as well as his 4 grandsons. I've got to say, this book really did surprise me. I was very enthralled with the puzzles, and that's really the strongest portion of the book, I would say. My first pro. We get a lot of great puzzles, a lot of great riddles here, and the protagonists are working through these problems in their heads. Now, that kind of leads me to my next con. It is very, very first person. And don't get me wrong, it can be done very well, and it was done very well here, but a lot of the dialogue is thinking about these current problems, working them over just like anyone would, and there's a lot of puzzles and a lot of problems that our main protagonist, Avery, runs into. So be prepared when you check this one out, because she will be really deducing some very interesting things that personally I would have never seen myself, but that goes to show you that she's a very smart young gal and is able to tackle these grandiose puzzles that Tobias Hawthorn has left. Now, my final pro, and shocker I know for my channel, character growth, character development throughout this series. The brothers themselves are very, very fleshed out. The author, Miss Barnes, definitely gave a lot of thought into the structuring of this family dynamic and how a lot of the brothers, on the surface get along with themselves as well as their extended family, but there's some scars hidden beneath these sincere smiles. And Avery Grambs is very much thrown into the viper's den, and she's having to figure out what are these hidden problems that they have with each other and trying to survive herself, but as well as work through and try to become friends with these people who basically feel very scorned by her presence in general. All in all, I did really, really enjoy this series, and before we jump into the deep dive, what would you do if you were given billions and billions of dollars? You inherited it from a person that you had no idea even existed. Yes, you'd probably be the luckiest person alive, and you'd be dealing with some jealousy, but it goes to show you that $1 billion, let alone tens of them, are a crazy mindset to really even gather. The amount of luxury that is shown in this book is phenomenal and a testament to the amount of money that people are dealing with, and the dialogue really goes to show why that is so. Now, this is a series review, so I just gave a little information on book 1, but it does have 4 books in it. My personal favorite was book 4 with that change of perspective, like I mentioned. But in book 3, we do find out what Avery's intention for the money is, and I have to be quite candid. I think it is the best way to utilize the money that has been left to her. So that is one of the reasons why you should check out this series. The author gave a lot of thought into what this money could be used for and put to, and definitely I think it is the correct answer. But personally for me, I would just buy a boat and sail off to wherever I wanted to, but that is just my opinion. So do consider what you would do if you were in Miss Grambs' situation. But with that, we'll go ahead and jump over to the deep dive, talking about the spoilers of this series. Feel free to come back to this video once you've actually read the series, and we can have a great discussion in the comments on y'all's thoughts. Thank y'all very much, and be sure to keep reading. Is anyone else a sucker for a love triangle? Because I'll be candid, it gets me every time. Our main protagonist, Avery, is stuck between deciding whether she wants to pursue Jameson, the very risky gentleman who definitely piques her curiosity, or Grayson, the cold, stony demeanor who has a face like an angel, apparently, and is always the epitome of perfection, at least to everyone else, just not himself. I was pulling for Grayson the whole time. There's a lot of potential for Grayson to really come into his own, and we got to see that in the 4th book. Now, we'll go ahead and just discuss it. Why did Avery Grambs give away $26 billion to charity, and her goal was to do it in the next 5 years? She kind of, in my opinion, wants to remove herself from the trouble she's gotten into. With all that cash, she very much has a target on her back, and that was definitely influenced by book 2 and book 3 when Grayson's father bombed her plane and kidnapped her, as well as in book 3 when Eva came in as a spy for the other family trying to pursue Tobias's legacy and tear him down. If you've got these big players out here gunning for you, personally, I'd want to get rid of the cash as well. But she did something that I very much respected. She's not entirely altruistic, and she retained $2 of the $1 billion that she was left, which is still an incredible amount that you could just do whatever you wanted to off the interest. So I very much respect her decision there, but she's doing a very admirable thing by giving it away. And after reading this book, I would definitely still buy my boat, but if someone wanted to hand me a lot of money, that's probably what I would do as well. Now, I want to jump into the 4th book, which was my personal favorite, and that is the Hawthorn brothers. The perspective switches from Avery to both Jameson and Grayson, and we're getting 2 stories simultaneously. And even though they don't connect through a puzzle or a riddle, they very much do connect by bringing the brothers closer together. And we get to understand each character more and more. Avery, by being with Jameson, has definitely brought him back from the brink of the ledge. You know, this is a man who very much did not fear death, and now is able to pause in these situations instead of just leaping off the cliff, because he's wondering what's going to happen after he's long gone and leaving Avery alone, which is very commendable. Whereas on the other side, we get Grayson meeting his half-sisters and trying to make sure that they don't find out how bad of a father that their shared father really was, and trying to keep the lid on his death. Now, when it comes to my preferred arc, I'm gonna have to go with Jameson's and his quest to obtain his family home by the Devil's Mercy. I really enjoy like a gambling arc, and we very much got that here, but the puzzles were not left out, which is really the bread and butter of this series. Now, we got a lot more character development when it comes to Grayson, but seeing them, in one case, he goes to a high school party to look at the lawyer's information, and I don't know, I'm trying to get away from the YA feel, and we definitely got that a lot in this specific book, but we'll have to see when book 5 comes out and Avery and Jameson finally do get to make their own game, and I imagine that Eva is going to play herself. I do hope in book 5 that we continue on with Grayson and Jameson's perspective, but only time will tell. I do think it is an awesome thing that Miss Barnes did, jumping middle of the series, or just almost starting a new arc and switching perspectives from Avery to Grayson and Jameson. It's a very risky move, and in my opinion, it definitely paid off. And it makes sense because the first 3 books were really centered around her coming into her money and surviving all these people taking shots at her. Now she can open up this new arc, and we're moving on to a grander scope. And I very much am looking forward to the game that these people can concoct when they open it up to the world. So be sure to keep your eyes out for book 5. Again, my hat is tipped, metaphorically, to Miss Jennifer Lynn Barnes. She did a marvelous job with this series, and I hope y'all enjoyed it as much as I did. With that, I do appreciate everyone's time, and be sure to keep reading.